Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. So let's talk about the full moon in Aquarius and Venus ingressing into Libra. Now, yesterday I recorded this video and I paused for a moment to look something up. And when I came back, I didn't hit the right button to record. So that's why that video was deleted. And so thank you to those of you who sent me messages and emails and just asking if I was okay and if everything was okay. It's very, very sweet, very touching. So thank you. Now, what I've realized today is that the little glitch that came up wasn't, whilst it may have seemed like an inconvenience at the time, it was actually meant to happen, because in the last 24 hours or so since that happened, there's been a lot of things that have been processing inside me that I've been reflecting on, and things that I've been downloading as well. So it was meant to be that I was meant to come back today with quite a different energy, actually, and bring through what was transmitted to me. So I'm actually really happy that it happened. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that. So I'm going to start with reading the Sabian symbol for the degree of the full moon. Now, the full moon occurs in a few days' time, on the 21st and 22nd of August. And it's the second full moon in Aquarius that we're having. So we had one last month as well. Then we had the new moon in Leo, and now we have another full moon in Aquarius. The one last month was at the beginning of Aquarius, and this one is right towards the end of Aquarius. Now, the Sabian symbol is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And so I'll read you what it says. So it's the 30th degree that we look at, and my book's broken, but that's the book I'm reading from. Okay, Dane Rajan, An Astrological Mandala. Some of you have this book. I recommend having this book, and just to remind people again, so you can look at any degree in the zodiac through this book, and it will give you a specific metaphor, description, keynote, and so forth. And some of these, when you read them for yourself, are really quite mind-blowing, because one Sabian symbol can sometimes describe your whole life. They're really powerful. It's not the case with every planet and every point in your chart necessarily, but you may find a couple that would extremely resonate with your life story and life journey. So the full moon is at 29 degrees of Aquarius. So therefore we go to the subsequent degree, which is 30 degrees of Aquarius. So here it is. Deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture. So let me stop right there and just make a comment about that. Deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture. Honestly, it's so literal to me when I read this, but here's what I see, my interpretation when I hear that. So what I'm feeling and sensing and interpreting and intuiting from this particular Sabian symbol, just with that one line there, is that because we have been how can I put it? That there has been a very dominating influence of the patriarchal systems. And that's, please understand, when I use the term patriarchal, it's not an attack on the male gender at all. It's got nothing to do with that. We just must understand the metaphors and the language, and also being able to observe and understand and witness what has been playing out for the last 10,000 years. Okay, so it's not an attack against anybody or anything necessarily. It's just basically pointing to a particular dominating force that has been in play for a very long time. So deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture. Now that's, to me, that's speaking to that exactly, that we have been deeply rooted in those systems for a very long time. And it is clear that the whole world is shifting. Everything is transitioning. Everything is evolving at a very incredibly rapid rate at the moment, that no one can deny that, whether you follow or believe in astrology or work with it, or whether it doesn't matter what you believe, nobody can deny that there is an undeniable cataclysmic force in play at the moment. And there's just different perceptions and different ways of understanding that, and different beliefs, and etc., etc. But regardless of which position you take, it is an undeniable factor of what's happening on the earth. So the following sentence is: a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds emerged into the glowing light of a unanimous consciousness is revealed to one who has emerged successfully from his metamorphosis. So very simply put, that again is also speaking to the opportunity for unison to occur here, because we are one big human family. At the end of it all, at the essence of it all, that's exactly what we are. The fact that we have diverged in different directions and have split off and feel a sense of separation and so on and so forth is just merely part of the human experience and a large part of the expression of the ego. So the current times are really trying to wake us up to the essence of divinity, and to the essence of oneness and love, and to the essence of and truth of that we are in fact not separate at all. We are all one, and we all come from the one same source. So this full moon is just highlighting this energy of everything that's going on the earth at the moment, from the point of view of saying, you know, this is a real opportunity for people to stand unanimous, you know, as opposed to divided, which is what appears to be going on. When I say appears, I say that specifically, I use that word specifically because relative to mainstream consensus TV and media, what is being projected is a narrative and a storyline that is further creating a perspective of division. And it's deliberately designed to be that way. So it is always going to come back to our own sense of discernment, investigation, understanding, asking questions, researching, and not necessarily buying into a particular program, which we've been under the guise of for a very long time. So it's just saying that those who are able to transform and metamorphosize, and have been, really, we all have been for thousands of years, really, we've all been evolving, and we've just reached a really pivotal point in that process of evolution. Hi, Coco. So those that are able to take a stand within them that speaks from an authentic place, that feels authentic and feels real. It feels truthful. Hi, Coco. There is a greater possibility and chance of unison in these times. Okay, and those that don't, that's okay. They will eventually catch up, I guess. The keynote is the ability for the person with an open mind and a deep feeling for self-transcendence to come in contact with higher forms of existence. Now, that's a very, very powerful keynote, because again, if you interpret that relative to the paradigm that's being presented at the moment, the narrative, the storyline, because everything on that external level, at the consensus level particularly, is being projected in a way where it's promoting fear, and it's hooking people into the real dark elements of things that are being exposed and showing up. So, you know, the more we buy into that, the more we will remain in that fear-based level, and the more we will make decisions from that space, and the more we will not question and not find the power, sense of self-empowerment within, to continuously keep our vibration elevated. Now, I just want to say something. Keeping your vibration elevated and standing in truth and light and in your heart center and in authenticity does not exclude you from the experience of pain or suffering or confusion and so forth. So, if anybody kind of suggests, I think that, once you raise your vibration, you're free of those things. I think that's a bit of a misconception, because whilst we're here in this physical dimension, in this physical body with an ego and a personality, we're all subject to all the different things that are actually appearing and manifesting. And our power lies in how we choose to respond to what appears. The power isn't in what's appearing, the power is in us, each of us. So that's how I see this Sabian symbol being quite profound and very, in fact, very encouraging and very inspiring for the message that's being transmitted onto the earth plane as a result of the full moon's energy. The full moon, which is the light, the feminine, the mother, the container that holds us all. So we can tune into that energy. Now, I must admit, the last couple of weeks, I myself too was experiencing a sense of feeling overwhelmed and bombarded, actually, by numerous emails and messages and information that keeps coming to me. And some of it, is very, very useful. And some of it, I don't know, how much truth there is in it, in either side of the fence, so to speak. But what I do know is that when I found myself continuously engaging with it, regardless of whether it was true or not, it really decentered me. It really decentered me. I felt my energy was just being depleted on a daily basis. And so for the last few days, I've had to basically detach, step back into myself, and shift the focus and shift the energy. And this is when the divine goddess feminine energy started just flooding into my consciousness. So the things that I started, where I shifted my energy and where my attention was going and what was coming into my consciousness was completely different to what was coming in the last week or so. Now, admittedly, what was coming in the last week has largely got to do with the reality before me in the location that I live in, which is at the moment in Australia. And we just went into our 8th lockdown. Okay, so things are, extremely appearing to be extremely bleak. Okay, we can't deny that that's a reality of what's presenting on the external plane. So, I'm human just like you, just like everybody else. So I too am affected by these things. But I'm sharing my personal sort of story about the last few days because I want to hopefully, reach somebody and inspire somebody. You might have been going through something similar. And what I'm saying is that you can shift it. You can shift the energy of what you're feeling. You can shift the fear. You can shift the anxiety. You can shift feeling overwhelmed. And you can shift it all into a place where you can actually be more detached. You can see the bigger picture. And you can have a greater sense of hope and faith in that the end result is going to be actually exactly what needs to happen, which is going to be better for all of us. But we can't get to that space, that end point, if you like, without the destruction of the matters that need to be cleared out and destructed. We just simply cannot. And so one of the main voices that's really pointing to that is the goddess Eris, who has been forming a square relationship to Pluto. That is, that Pluto and Eris are in what's called a square aspect that is described by conflict. It's a dynamic, conflicting energy. So it creates change and movement. Okay, it doesn't come through lightly, it comes through with full force. And Goddess Eris, the more I meditate on her energy, the more I read, the more I kind of sit with what she's bringing, the more I realize that it's actually, this is going to sound weird, but it's actually a good thing that she's come through. We really needed her to come through. We really needed her frequency to come through and shatter the bullshit and the illusions, the greed, the deception, you know, all the stuff that's been going on for really thousands of years. Okay. And you've got to understand, when something has been in play for that amount of time, it's not going to just blow over in one day. You know, it's not going to take one particular individual to stand up and say, hey, you know, we all need to wake up. We all need to make some changes. We all need to become more aware. You know, whatever it is that you want to say, it's not going to happen like that. It has to happen through chaos, discord, destruction. So that is the role of Eris, Eris is a similar frequency, if not the same, as the Hindu goddesses Kali and Durga, right? Both those goddesses. Durga is more of a mother figure, but in in her role, what she does is she fights demons, and she does overcome the battle. That's why there's a celebration, you know, every year in India, relative to the 9 nights, 9 days of all the goddesses, and Durga being the main one that they celebrate during that particular festival, which is called Navratri. And I had the privilege of experiencing that when I was in India a few years ago. So Durga is a goddess who is reflecting the battle of the demons, the darkness. Now, what are those demons, and what is that darkness? It's our own shadow. Okay, that's what it is. It's the ego. It's the ego in the most dysfunctional, distorted, insatiable form. Okay, with no consciousness, no awareness, and no sense of anybody else or anything else mattering but what it wants. Okay, that's it in a nutshell, really. We could talk about that for hours. And goddess Kali, she's a very similar figure, except she's not a mother type figure. She comes in with full force. And, you know, when you see pictures that depict particularly the goddess Kali, she's depicted in particular ways that some people find a little bit harsh to kind of look at, because she looks rather demonic, as it were. She's not demonic at all. In fact, what she's reflecting is the demonic darkness of the darker forces that exist, and she's slaying them all. And that's what Eris is doing right now. So let me just share my screen and show you something relative to Eris specifically. So this is just a little window that I've pulled out of Solarfire, the astrology software program. And what it's showing me is the relationship between Eris and Pluto in terms of those two being square each other, when it started, when the first square started, and when the last one will take place. Now, I just want to say, because these are both very slow moving bodies, meaning that the exact date, the first one was 27th of January, 2020. Okay. However, we can actually say that 2019 was picking up this energy. Okay. Because these bodies are very, very, very slow moving. Eris takes 560, 70 years to do a lap around your chart. Pluto takes 248 years. So the slower the planet moves, the more you can extend the orb in terms of its approaching. Okay, and when I say approaching, what I'm talking about is Pluto and Eris coming together in this square relationship. The exact technical date is the 27th of January 2020, but the energy was building momentum in 2019. Okay, so then we had the next hit was 15th of June 2020. Another one, 11th of December 2020. We have another one coming up in about a week, just over a week, which will be on the 28th of August. And I think that's going to be a very pivotal time on Earth relative to the events that are taking place. And the final one is taking place on the 9th of October 2021. And even though that's the last hit, because Pluto starts to move forward and move past Eris, I would say that 2022 is still going to have the and energy of Pluto and Eris will still be there. It won't be as intense as it has been, since starting from 2019, but that's, 19, 20, 21, 22, almost 4 years, okay, of Pluto Eris energy, which is based, Pluto is also about death, rebirth, destruction, transformation, evolution. Eris is the cousin to Pluto. She is the sister of Mars. She holds a vibration that is about war, okay, but it's war on the darker forces, which is what? The ego at its most dysfunctional level, okay, because everyone has an ego, but what's happened over thousands of years is that ego has just it's become a monster. And the divine feminine energies, which speak through Durga, Kali, Venus, the moon, Eris, and many, many others, have basically, it's sort of difficult to describe in, I suppose, in, left brain linear terms or language or perceptions, but on a spiritual, esoteric, essential level of divine feminine, the divine feminine is ripping through the earth. It's literally smashing through, ripping through all the bullshit that has been accumulating and developing over a very long time. And so that feminine is going to come through fiercely as she is. It's just, it cannot be any other way. So given that, and I've said this for the last, probably few months really, but I've said it a lot more in the last few weeks, that, everything that's happening at the moment is only going to intensify. We're not going to see a sense of peace and balance and unison right now. There's a timing in everything. There's a universal timing in every single thing that unfolds. Whether we believe that or not, whether we understand that or not, it doesn't even matter, because it's there, it's happening. So just be aware of the 28th of August and 9th of October, just be prepared for a lot more to come through. And it's not going to be very pretty necessarily, but it's going to be very necessary. Now, let's bring up the full moon chart. Okay, so here it is here. So there's the full moon in Aquarius. It's conjunct Jupiter. The full moon in Aquarius, of course, represents the people, humanity. It's a sign of humanity and the people, right? We're all brothers and sisters. It's the reflection of brothers and sisters, the human family on the planet. So given that it's a second full moon in Aquarius in, a period of 2 months, there's clearly an absolute necessity for the full moon to light these energies on the earth plane, to bring things to a greater sense of awareness, a greater ability to see what's going on, okay, on the globe, in terms of the entire human race, because that's what Aquarius represents. So within this as well, don't forget the new moon was actually, which was in Leo, was triggered with the square between Uranus and Saturn, which is still in play. We have one more hit of that at the end of the year. We have 2 more hits of Pluto and Eris. So, these are very volatile, intense, dynamic, critical, chaotic, tense, conflicting energies. Nothing that comes through is going to be peaceful at the moment, but necessary. I'll get back to the full moon in a minute. I just want to touch on Venus in Libra, because I think this is very important. Now, Venus in Libra, which went into Libra, would have been about the, what are we now? About the 15th or 16th of August. Okay, so she's at 7 degrees here, so she's been there for a few days. Now she won't spend a great deal of time in Libra. It's about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, something like that. So she's an evening star in this, okay, because she's moving direct. Interestingly enough, in the sign of Libra, first of all, Libra is her natural domain. It's a sign that she has rulership over. It is a sign that corresponds to the law, to justice and fairness, and to peace, harmony, and all those sorts of things. But one thing that I like to remind people is that the archetype Libra, it's not, whilst it represents peace and harmony and beauty and balance and equality and proportion and all those things that it does, it doesn't necessarily mean that Libra is completely integrated with those things. In fact, to the contrary, she is seeking to create and integrate and make more whole all those things. So in the sign of Libra, she brings up whatever actually is imbalanced, whatever needs further balance, and she's also seeking to restore balance and to restore justice as well. Now, there's a lot of matters going on legally relative to the current global situation with certain mandates or suggestions, or I'll use the word coercions, that are taking place where humanity at large, it appears as though they're not being given a choice, okay, relative to what they want to do with their health and their body. And I think Venus in Libra is, she's going to restore some of this, and it's going to be very interesting because she's going to reach Vesta, and I'll show you when that happens. So 2nd of September. So we could say, 19th, 20th, building up, pardon me, 30th, rather, August, building up to, we could say even the following day. Okay, they're both 21, right? 3rd of September. Let's go another day. Now, Venus has only just gone past. So those days around there, I'd give it that week, actually, because this is a very important conjunction that's taking place, because Vesta is in Libra as well. I think this is going to produce a lot more matters around law and lawsuits, matters that have been unlawful, in whether it's in states or cities or countries, or whether it's personal lawsuits that people take on, right? That we're going to see a lot more of that. Now, Venus in Libra, whilst she ultimately is seeking to restore balance, she will also create the necessary conflict in order to come back to that balance. Because don't forget, the opposite to Libra is Aries, and Aries is a sign of conflict. And so that's a polarity we're working with. Now, one thing about Vesta that I wanted to mention here, I think what's going to happen here is that there's going to be some further information from a legal perspective that's going to be pronounced and made public, that's been hidden and kept away. And the reason I say that is because Vesta, in her myth, without going into her whole story, but just remember that Vesta, when Saturn, the planet Saturn, who's known as Kronos in Greek mythology, when he swallowed all his children, which are all the other planets, except Jupiter, Vesta was one of the ones that he swallowed as well. And when they were all freed, when all his children were freed, because they were, Vesta was the last one to come out. And I've always said that part of her myth is is such a pivotal point to what she represents. And there's a lot of layers to that. But what it's speaking to here relative to Libra and Venus being in Libra and Vesta being in Libra, relating to the law, I think because she was the last one to come out, it means that she spent the longest inside, meaning in the inner realms, right? Meaning in what's hidden, okay? Let me put it like that. So when she comes out as the final one, she's come out with, she's got a lot of secrets. She's got a lot of mysteries. She knows a lot of things. And so coming into this conjunction with Venus, she's likely to bring out some things that were unknown, okay, when it comes to law matters and justice and things like that. So I'll be very interested to see what surfaces and what manifests. And there's already things that are being revealed through whistleblowers, through platforms, social media platforms that are not censored and so forth. And I receive a lot of that all the time. So there's a lot there. It's just a matter of discerning, deciding, and choosing what you're going to kind of allow into your field as well, in terms of what purpose is it going to serve to hear this particular information or this particular direction. Now, it can be very, very important relative to legal rights and things like that. And I think that is important because we are living in a 3D plane, and it is powerful to have knowledge of your own rights on any spectrum, regardless of who you are or where you live, right? So I think that's going to be a very important aspect. Now, a day later, around about here, yep. So around about the 5th of September, Venus forms her opposition to Eris. And at the same time, she forms a square to Pluto. And so I think that's going to be huge, huge in terms of bringing further cataclysmic, chaotic type of events, but it's going to come through Venus, which is about, in Libra, which is about restoring balance, harmony, okay? But again, because Venus in Libra can very easily point to creating conflict in order to restore the balance, and she's opposite Eris, which is a goddess of chaos and destruction, and squaring Pluto, which is a body of, again, destruction, chaos, death, rebirth, transformation, dying, death. These are not light energies. I'm not going to gloss them over and make them all pretty. There's no point. This is what they are. But it's important to understand that this is necessary. These are transits that are happening not because of our own choice. This is the natural phenomena movement of the planets, and they are all archetypal symbols of the myriad of possibilities of what can manifest through them. But clearly, again, like I've said in many videos, as a matter of fact, when you're reading a full moon chart, let's just stick to a full moon chart. You're looking, we are assessing the chart, the energies, the archetypes, the aspects, the patterns, the things that are going on, and we have to put it into context of the current paradigm. It's part and parcel of everything that we are witnessing and seeing, both internally and externally. So I think these days with Vesta building up to Venus building up to catching up to Vesta and then forming an opposition to Eris and a square to Pluto are going to be very pivotal and volatile times, as a matter of fact, but with the hope and with the hope of restoring some kind of balance and justice, okay, in certain global situations for that matter. Even if it's just the beginning of something that gets triggered at that time, which is very important for restoring actually peace and balance on the earth plane. Because in the bigger picture, that's what's actually going on with these goddesses. There's a restoration that's going on, but the restoration needs to clear out all the debris, all the bullshit, before the new seeds can be planted and we can actually proceed forward. So the full moon, where are we? Let's just go back to the full moon. No, it's still there. Okay. All right. So the full moon being conjunct Jupiter is a very interesting combination. Now, and it's opposite the sun, of course, as well. Jupiter, of course, is the greater benefic. Jupiter is a planet that is known to bring abundance, growth, expansion, development, optimism, confidence, faith, opportunities. But because Jupiter is the planet that expands anything it touches, then it's going to expand anything it touches. So whatever is going on the planet at that time, relative to a full moon as well, it's going to expand that, so we're going to see a lot more. Jupiter can bring in hope without question. But on the other hand, Jupiter is also going to expand and highlight all the other things that are there as well. So just be aware of that. Don't automatically assume because this full moon is conjunct Jupiter that it's all goodies. It's all the all the happy kind of stuff. It's not necessarily going to be that. It is going to be an expansion of what is actually appearing and manifesting on the earth plane. There is also, though, the side of hope and faith and confidence, of course. And I think even more so, it will probably be very much about more groups and communities of people uniting, coming together. And I'm seeing more and more of that on the earth plane in various countries all around the globe. You don't get to see a lot of this, hardly any of it, in fact, in social media and commercial news, mainstream consensus news, because unfortunately, and this is not my perception, this is what appears to be going on, unfortunately, what they tend to show is that, like, say, for example, if there's a protest where there's thousands of people, they'll make it look like it was only a few hundred people. This is a fact. I've seen them do it in Australia. I've seen a whole protest being filmed live by an alternative media person. So you can see exactly I watched the whole thing. It went for 2 hours. I watched it from start to finish so that I could see with my own eyes exactly what was going on. There was no editing, there was no cutting. It was a live stream on Facebook, actually. So nothing was cut out. It was all there to see, whatever it was. So unfortunately, the strength is in the people. That's not unfortunate. That is fortunate. The strength and the power resides in the people coming together, not through conflict, but through love and unison and faith and acceptance. And the media is unfortunately trying to paint an image of conflict, fighting, making situations appear as though these people are creating problems, they're dysfunctional, they're aggressive, and so on and so forth. And it's not that way at all. Naturally, when you have a protest, the energy is really intense. People are pretty hyped. And there are, certain individuals within those communities or groups that may take a different stance, that might be slightly more aggressive. Okay, that's just how it goes. But to only highlight where there was some kind of minor altercation that occurred, and to demonize and target, a couple of individuals and paint that over the whole meaning of what was actually going on is completely false. It's not authentic. And so this is what's going on, everywhere, in every country. So we have to be able to see beyond that, right? Now, whether you are with those people or not, I think it's still important to understand the truth of what's going on. So, just one other thing about Vesta as well. Vesta also, and particularly because she's approaching the conjunction, or Vesta and Venus are coming together and in the sign of Libra, which has got to do with law and justice. Some of the things that correspond to Vesta as well. Let me see, where was I reading it? So Vesta binds together groups sharing a common belief. Now, I know beliefs can be dangerous as well. I agree, because a belief is not necessarily something that is truth. So we do have that side of it too. And so it will be that. It will be, you know, people being coming together based on what they believe relative to the story that's being presented. And it seems to me, I could be wrong, but it feels and it seems to me that the intention of certain forces are to create this conflict and division amongst brothers and sisters. Because if all brothers and sisters come together in love and unison, game over. But we're not there yet, are we? So we just have to wait and see how it unfolds. And all we can do is stand in our own heart center, our own position of authenticity and truth, to have the courage to do that. These last couple of months have all been about our own courage and truth and authenticity. So binding together groups that have, you know, a common belief, social or service groups, secret societies and orders, you know, for instance, represents the principle of conservatism and safety, sanctuary, security, protection, contracts, treaties, safes, fences, heritage. These are all words that correspond to the goddess Vesta, by the way. Now, these are very important key words relative to the current nature of events, right? So I think Vesta and Venus coming together in the sign of Libra is going to be very, very significant for what's transpiring on the earth plane. Okay, let me see. And in amongst all of this, what's happening is transiting Uranus turned stationary retrograde just a couple of days before the full moon. And I'm going to come back and do a separate video on that because there's quite a few points I'd like to discuss. And I just wanted to really talk about Venus relative to this full moon, because her presence is always important. Her presence always enables us to embrace love, actually. Embrace love, receive love, and give love, amongst many other different things that she corresponds to. But don't forget that Venus appears as a morning star and an evening star. Now, in this case, she is an evening star, which is said, according to particularly Ariel Gutman's work, you know, the Venus evening star is not one that really corresponds to earthly matters, and certainly not matters of war and conflict. And that's why the evening star is the associated rulership is to that of Libra, and the morning star is the one that's associated to the goddess, which is known, she was called Pandemos, and she corresponds to the earthly matters. She's more of the day warrior goddess, right? And she's restoring harmony and balance through taking care of, you know, the practical things that need to happen on earth, and coming through with quite a warrior sort of presence about her. Whereas the evening star brings in more the esoteric light, wisdom, astrological knowledge and insights and understanding. And of course, through the archetype of Libra, she brings in the restoration of balance and right law, right action. And perhaps even, as I said before, perhaps creating conflict in specific ways in order to actually really restore that balance. Aries is opposite Libra. You can't separate any sign has a polarity, which is its shadow. They're always operating, you know, together. You can't separate them. That is the case with every single archetype in the zodiac. They all are opposite another sign. So I expect the rest of this month to be incredibly huge and intense, and possibly very, very difficult on a lot of different levels. But again, just remember that the intensification is part and parcel of the shift that is coming through. Don't worry about, well, I know it's easy to say don't worry about, but I guess I'm trying to say, try not to as best as you can buy into the program of fear. And you can actually spread that out into a number of different things in your life and about life itself at the moment. But once you step into that fear, you've sold yourself to the game, if I can put it like that. And that's exactly what's wanted by these particular forces in play, because they're losing control, they're losing their power. It's just a fact. So the Jupiter can bring a sense of faith and hope, and more people coming together, a greater sense of brotherhood, which was the Sabian symbol, brotherhood in unison, becoming unanimous through the understanding, inner standing of authenticity and truth, not the game and the program that's out there. We are above and beyond that, all of us. We just need to realize it. So, yeah, I feel this is going to be a fairly positive energy, but because of everything else that's happening amongst it, I don't think it's going to necessarily be easy. But will it bring more people together? Yes, I believe it will. Will more matters of law and matters that have been unlawful be revealed and appropriately restored and appropriately taken on board and sought to bring about justice and things like that? Yes, I do believe that's going to happen. So those are all good things, right? But I'm not suggesting that this full moon and this chart here is going to be, you know, the catalyst for restoring the absolute harmony and peace that we are heading towards, although it seems the complete opposite. But certainly these energies at the moment are all part and parcel of the bigger picture, right? These are all little triggers, every full moon, every new moon, and particularly the last full moon, which was in Aquarius, and the new moon in Leo, which had the Saturn Uranus square right jammed into it, which we've seen what that is. Uranus, the people, freedom. Saturn, structure, suppression, oppression, rules, control, and so forth. And it's the epitome of the clash between Saturn and Uranus, which is, if you just read the mythology of Saturn and Uranus, you will very easily and very clearly be able to translate that story to what's happening on the Earth plane right now. But add in Pluto, Saturn, the Pluto-Saturn conjunction that we've been through, add in the Pluto-Eris square, which really started in 2019, was building momentum, has been intensifying this year extensively. We've still got 2 more hits to go. Then 2022, there's a slight, slow movement of separation between Eris and Pluto, still within orb though, energy still present. So expect 2022 to still be quite filled with what is appearing as turmoil, cataclysmic events and so forth. But my main message is, please do not allow that to drain your energy and to suck you into buying into a program of fear, because we are all above and beyond that, and we all hold that that power inside us. Always. That's what we need to remember. When we come back to that, each time there's restoration of peace and balance that's integrated inside us, which does get projected outside of us as well. So it's up to us. We do have a choice. We do have a choice in everything. As much as right now it appears we don't. We do. And there's ways around virtually anything. We just have to be able to use a critical mind. Remember, Mercury's in Virgo. I spoke about that a couple of videos ago, or a video ago, whatever it was. Mercury in Virgo is really enabling us to get our critical reasoning skills cap on. Now, just to, add to that, and I said also with the video I did on Sarah's transiting in Gemini, and of course Mercury transiting in Virgo, those two signs that Mercury has rulership and domain over, I said that there was going to be a revealing of a lot of information, which, to an extent, it can bring a lot of confusion. But on the other hand, we have the ability to discern. No one can tell you what to think if you don't want that to happen. You've got your own mind. You make up your own mind. You discern for yourself through inquiry, through investigation, not through a propaganda that's being sold through fear. I have to be very direct about that because I feel I have to be. But anyway, more importantly, as I said, the goddesses really came through very strongly in the last 24 hours and reminded me to pull back, because it's like there was a force that was trying to drag me into, whilst there was information that was giving me a sense of awareness and knowledge about certain things, and I can appreciate that. But on the other hand, it was keeping me locked into a space that was overwhelming and wasn't making my body and my heart feel good, actually. So the goddesses just, they gave me a bit of a shake up, right? And I really believe that's why they stopped that video yesterday, because their presence was not as strong until after that. So stand in your truth, stand in your power, trust in the divine plan, trust the light, recognize whatever it is within you that either feels false or feels authentic. Decide for yourself and stand in that place. And whatever that is for you. So I wish you all a happy full moon. I know it's sort of hard and challenging to be really happy at the moment with everything that's going on, but it is important to stay in alignment with the bigger picture and the divine plan. It is really important, because your energy is transmitting that you have inside you onto everyone around you and onto the earth. We are all transmitting our own frequency. Whatever that frequency is described by or reflected by, well, that's what's getting dispersed out there. We need to remember that all the time. So stand in your own truth. Much love, much blessings. Thanks for watching, and leave your comments and questions below. And I'll see you guys soon with the Uranus retrograde. I think that will be the next one that I will talk about. Much love. Bye for now.